Hello all, this is Tony. It's July, so we know that we'll be seeing our leaders in the elites meeting in Bohemian Grove this month. So what I want to do in this video is try to bring a little more awareness to what happens in Bohemian Grove and also to look at the figure that they are worshiping in Bohemian Grove. We can only know so much about what goes on over there and their little private meetings, but what we can know is that the Bible does give us some clues to what goes on, or at least who they're worshiping, so and that will give us an idea of what they're probably doing in there. But the main thing is that there's a lot of confusion actually about the the spirit of Bohemian Grove. And so I'm just going to go into some information about that, and also I have a interview from Freeman Fly from Freeman Fly TV, and you very much need to hear that because it is a very interesting and informative interview. And after that, there is some footage from the Bohemian Grove that Alex Jones had took, and I went through the I put some time and effort into basically what's the word I'm looking for, uh, putting the subtitles in there so to make it easier to read so you can know what they're saying. And I hope this video enlightens you some. There's some information in here that some people might have seen already, but I'm putting in there again because I have to assume that this is somebody's first time seeing this video or seeing any of my videos. So I put some information in there that maybe some people have already seen before. So thank you for watching the video, and I hope it enlightens you some. So the first figure that we are going to look at is Ashera, that is spelled Asherah. Um, she is related to Mother Nature, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, Ashera is a very ancient goddess of course to us she's a false goddess, but in the ancient Ugaritic text she is called she who gives birth to the gods, which is similar to what Roman Catholics say about the Virgin Mary, calling her the Mother of God. Ashera is also called she who treads on the sea. Now, excuse me if my speech is a little bit off tonight because I'm very tired. It's like 2 a.m. So, Ashera, the she who treads on the sea, related to Rahab the Leviathan and the Mother of God, Kibali, and the other mother goddesses. Okay, so moving on. In fact, scholars have revealed that much of the Old Testament is about a religious war between the followers of the goddess Ashera and the followers of the god Yahweh. In the end, it was the followers of Yahweh who won, and it was they who wrote the Bible as we know it today. Just as water is the basic element in the maritime pursuits, in order to traverse a sizable body of water, one must have a vessel. Seaworthy vessels in Canaan and Phoenicia were made of wood. Therefore, it is reasonable that the goddess associated with the sea would also be associated with trees, and the iconography and textual evidence support this assertion. Her identification with trees suggests that Ashera was in fact also Mother Nature. Her first images were torn down, then her images were rewritten, her stories were rewritten, I'm sorry, then her name was forgotten. In fact, her name appears 40 times in the modern translations of the Bible, but not at all in the first English translations of the King James Version Bible. Since no one knew who Ashera was in the 17th century when the King James Version or KJV was being written, her name was translated as groves of trees, or images in groves, without understanding that those trees and groves of trees represented a mother goddess. So I think we're all guilty of being ignorant of this person in the Bible. We just aren't taught because we aren't know to look for it. You don't, know something's, you can't find it if you don't know something's missing, right? Okay, moving on. 2 Kings 21, verse 1 through 7. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 50 and 5 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. For he built up again the high places, which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal, and made a grove, as did Ahab king of Israel, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, In Jerusalem will I put my name. And he built altars for all the hosts of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his son pass through the fire, and observed times, and used enchantments, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. And here the final straw. And he set a graven image of the grove, image of Ashera, that he had made in the house of the Lord, in the house of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. So, looking into Ashera, since that was the image that Manasseh had placed in the house of the Lord, that the final straw that broke the camel's back. Ashera, the name of a Phoenician goddess, or false goddess, or rather the idol itself. Ashera is closely connected with Ashtoreth in her worship. So Ashtoreth, a star, the principal female divinity of the Phoenicians, called Ishtar by the Assyrians and Astarte by the Greeks and Romans. She was by some ancient writers identified with the moon. It is certain that the worship of Astarte became identified with that of Venus, and that this worship was connected with the most impure rites is apparent from the close connection with this goddess Ashera. So Ashtoreth is Venus and Ashera. So we have just established that Ashera, the grove, is Venus. Okay, who is Venus? Lucifer, in the King James Version Bible rendering of the Hebrew word Hallel in Isaiah 14:12, the word is taken from the Latin Vulgate, which translates Hallel as Lucifer, meaning the morning star, or the planet Venus, or as an adjective, light-bringing. So Lucifer is an epithet of Venus. And that's so for those who say, I've seen this comment before, Venus isn't in the Bible. That's not true, because Venus is Ashera or Ashtoreth. And that kind of knowing that Venus is, or that Lucifer is Ashtoreth, or the Queen of Heaven, that kind of sheds a different light on Zechariah 5, chapter 5, verse 5 through 8. Then the angel that talked with me went forth and said unto me, Lift up now thine eyes and see what is this that goes forth. And I said, What is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goes forth. And he said, Moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And he said, This is wickedness. So there was a woman in the basket, and the angel told Zechariah, and I would like to point out that the language in Zechariah chapter 5 is not symbolic, so we have no reason to believe that he was seeing a vision, a symbolic vision. He was reporting exactly what he was seeing. So, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah, and he said, This is wickedness. And another word for wickedness is iniquity. and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery. Revelation 17:5. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let until he would be taken out of the way. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 7. So I believe that this woman is the mystery of iniquity. And that knowing that, I would like to look at this person or this being that we call Lilith or whatever. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl, Lilith, also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest. That's in Isaiah chapter 34, verse 14. Now, Lilith and a number of other false goddesses are associated with the owl. As you see, she's flanked by two owls. Lilith also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest. That is H3917. A night specter, screech owl. First definition, Lilith, the name of a female goddess known as a night demon who haunts the desolate places of Edom. 1a, might be a nocturnal animal that inhabits desolate places. I think it's safe to say that Lilith is also the same as these other false goddesses, these other ones that Venus and Ashera and the rest of them. So here's the interview. I hope you guys like it. Hang in there for the Bohemian Grove footage. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to the Free Zone. Once again, it is so wonderful to have you all here because I know that you and I are out here experiencing life together. And that's really what this show is all about, is the idea of experiencing life. Because when we look at our world and we get caught up in the real world menagerie that just keeps us bound in a cycle that is leading to nothing spiritual or soulful in your life, then we need to change that. And the only way to change that is by getting out there and experiencing life. Now tonight we're going to talk with Mike Clellan, and he is an experiencer. And we get to flip the script a little bit because a few years back, Mike had me on his show. His website's hiddenexperience.blogspot.com, and his new book is The Messengers, excuse me, let me get that correct. The Messengers, Owls, Synchronicity, and the UFO Abductee. Now, many of us know that if you were to plant an owl out on top of a building, this would detract birds from landing on top of that building. What you might not realize is that the reason the birds avoid the owl is not because they had ever been attacked by an owl ever in their lives, or even possibly seen an owl in that little bird's experience, but they have genetic memory of that predator in their soul, in their very genetic makeup. They have a fear of that owl. Now, when we look back to history, we can see our leaders going to Bohemian Grove and worshiping under a 40-foot stone owl. And I've investigated this question, and I've looked deep into why and who and where these connections come in, and it's so elusive. But we know the owl connects to the goddess. We know she goes to Columbia, Minerva, Athena, all the way back. And we know that the owl is the sign of secret knowledge and seeing the world in a full perspective and bringing light to darkness. So tonight we are going to talk with Mike Clellan about his book, The Messengers, Owls, Synchronicity, and the UFO Abductee. And we're going to discuss the experiences that led to the writing of this 400-page tome. And we're going to explore the ideas of synchronicity and how this all comes together and really start to relate a deeper meaning to this owl than even I had ever considered. Right now you're out seeking other experiencers to try and confirm and understand your experience. Is that what happened?
Not necessarily. No, actually,
Oh,
I
okay.
managed to fully deny that experience. But that was 1993. It was well into 2006 before I started looking at my own experiences. So that's what is that 13 years later. Um, yeah. So 13 years later, I was just like that. I just clamped the lid on that. I nailed the lid shut. I glued the edges of the lid, and it was like, man, that was not going to deal with that. And at the same time, I was reading UFO books compulsively, especially the abduction books. But the thought that it might happen to me, I guess I could dance around it a little bit. I guess, like I could kind of say like, oh, here's an interesting story, and I knew the implications of it, but I just would not allow myself to address those implications. That all fell apart when I saw three owls camping in Grand Teton National Park, actually right near the border of Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, and 4 days later, I saw three more owls while camping, in a different spot. And as silly as it sounds, right? I mean, just seeing owls at night. I mean, these owls showed up and they flew around us. It's a story I've told 1,000 times. But in the moment of seeing these owls, I was with the same person both times. Uh, in There was a palpable sense of, I mean, there was a voice in my head that clearly said, this has something to do with the UFOs. I'm looking at owls. The voice in my head says, this has something to do with UFOs. I never admitted that. That's what I was thinking until years later. But that's what that was my sense. And it sort of, all of a sudden I was just like, oh, like the trap door fell out from under me, and I started researching owls and totems and shaman animals and ancient mythologies and modern mythologies you know and then after from that point on, I actively started doing the research, and anytime I would talk to anyone, I would ask them, have you had any odd experiences with owls? And that's the foundation of the book, that one question, simply asking people, have you ever had any odd experiences with owls?
Well, that begs this question. I see Hollywood as a knowledgeable force of intelligence agencies that are trying to detract from reality. So obviously, you've seen the fourth kind.
I saw it just specifically for this research, and so the fourth kind was purports to be a documentary, and it has some found footage in
It
it. It's
makes it
actually
look
not fun.
so real. They make it look so real. Folks, the fourth kind is an entire fabrication. All
I'm all
right.
for a good publicity hoax like that. I mean, I got no problem with the filmmakers, pulling a little stunt like that. That you're allowed to do that. So
Oh, absolutely. It was
yeah,
well done. I mean,
I agree. I
I
agree. Yeah.
was totally blown away. But how do you feel about that now? Now that you understand that there is a connection between this UFO, what brought this movie to light? I always wonder that, because I feel like a lot of times I see my work or work about secret societies and things getting so detracted by people like Dan Brown, and I get mad when I see the Da Vinci Code, which came out a year after my work, folks. I just want to say that. And here you are, almost in the same boat. You're working on this UFO owl connection, which is odd. And then all of a sudden, it's wrapped up in the Sumerian tale that's brought forth with the movie The Fourth Kind. How did you feel about that?
Well, the movie came out like right in the dawn of my own looking into this. So that was just as I was starting to form my opinions, like wait a minute, there really is something to this UFO owl thing. That movie came out. I very quickly kind of realized upon watching the movie that it was the filmmakers had tapped into the literature. I mean, quite specifically, I think they just read Whitley Strieber's account of which very early on in his book he talks about an owl that he felt was inside his house, and he told his wife the morning after his what now has become the classic bedroom visitation. He told his wife, like, I think there was an owl in the house last night, and she said, no, that's impossible. There was no owl in the house, and if it did come in, it had to come in through this window, and the window was never open. And so they looked at the window ledge, and it had snowed a couple days before, so the window ledge was completely free of any footprints, and that um, I've spoken directly to Whitley Strieber about this, and he said that, like he was very, very poetic and dramatic about how he said it, but he basically said, looking at that window ledge without any footprints, like he knew that something else had happened, and it was, it basically changed his life. So you can go through, you can pull out a stack of UFO books that came out well before The Fourth Kind, and within those books, right, you get a big fat book. There might be a couple paragraphs on owls, and I made a big effort to go and dig through those books and find those paragraphs. So the owl meme was already out there when that movie showed up. And so my sense is the scriptwriters just said, like, oh, here's an eerie thing, owls, right? Haunted house movies always have owls. You want something scary, so someone walking at night in a movie, and you put the sound effect of a hooting owl, and it just adds to the mood. So this is perfect. Owls are kind of creepy looking, and so my sense is that the scriptwriters just added that in as a plot element, having mined the available UFO literature.
Well, now they absolutely tied this in with Enki and the Sumerian tales, and we go all the way back to the goddess of the night, the Lilith depiction of this clawed foot woman with wings and owls sitting down, and these are one of the earliest representations that we see. But of course, we see the owls in Egypt, we see them throughout the art and architecture of mythology, as we were saying, with Athena, Minerva, all the way up to now. So what have you learned about this owl symbolism throughout time?
Well, what I've learned is it's a bottomless pit, and then using the internet to try to research this is like, I could think of, if I wanted to prove that, whatever it's the owl is so rich with mythology. I think, in my sense, is the reason it is rich with mythology is because modern, like you can see an owl in the woods. I mean, it's arresting, right? They got big penetrating eyes. They're very eerie. They fly quietly. They only come out at night. So if you do see one during the day, it's kind of a big deal. I know that. I think ancient man felt that same power. So I think that the owl, just the physical bird, is primed for that kind of heavy drama to be added. You don't have bunny rabbit heavy drama in mythology, a little bit, I guess, but that the coyote is a trickster. Doesn't have this heaviness associated with it. So that's my sense, is that the real being, the real physical owl came first. Now, and then just you can go down the wisdom thing. You can go down the dark omen thing too, and there's like, you can find whatever you want to match your premise. So I was very cautious not to get locked into one avenue of thought and disregard all the others. What my sense is that this owl, when people would ask me, like I was working on the book, people say, so you're working on them? Well, I'm working on a book. Oh, what's it about? Oh, it's about owls. Oh, that's interesting. Owls. What do you mean? What about owls? And I would kind of size the person up, and I'm like, oh God, do I bring up the UFO thing? And most often, just out of sheer, like, oh, I don't want to have the 6-hour conversation, I would just say, oh, it's a book on owl mythology, which is true. There's a lot of owl mythology in the book. So, and I would, my premise is that the people are having owl experiences. Not all of them have to do with UFOs. People see owls at funerals, and they see owls when they're meditating. They see owls when they take heavy doses of mushrooms. Actually, I got a lot of examples of that. So there's this, and I would say that, and then, death, UFO contact, meditation, shamanic initiations, owls show up. These are all alternate states of reality. I mean, I think that the UFO contact experience, and I tried to describe that earlier, that feeling being between the magnets is an alternate state of reality, and people get dragged into that unwittingly. Also, shamanic initiation, people get dragged into that unwittingly. The owl seems to be the totem animal for the alternate reality. And consequently, step 2 of that would be the transition, the transformation that takes place in the individual after crossing the line into that alternate reality. So that, my sense is, that's the totem. The owl is the totem animal for that transformative process. And that is happening now. People seeing UFOs and owls, people meditating and seeing owls, and that it's still, and I'm sure it happened in ancient man. There's something associated with the owl that there's I mean, I'm just going to use the word magic. That's a word I'm comfortable with. There's some magic associated with the owl where it arrives synchronistically at these prescient moments in the lives of people as they're having these transformative experiences. The little thing I say, which is a little bit, meant to be purposely kind of provocative, I guess, is that if you have a UFO sighting, if you have a UFO sighting, don't call MUFON, don't call the UFO investigator, call the local shaman. I think you're going to get much more. You're gonna be able to address this in much more depth with a shaman. So, as far as the owl mythology, my sense is that it's the same thing happening now that happened to ancient man.
I have a feeling that you're going to get so inundated now with messengers and messages that book 4, 5, and 6 are already probably piling up there on your desk.
Book 2 is piling up, but so that was just leftover stuff that I couldn't fit in this book. So that's what book 2 is. So
that's why I jumped to 4. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know how. I might have to. Yeah, who knows what the future will bring? But I'm kind of owled out at this point. So.
Sure, we got to keep finding the mystery and understanding our own purpose here, and that's probably where it'll all direct to, right?
Yeah. Deer, that's actually the next one. Someone's got to write a book on deer. It's not my direct experience, but deer are just as rich with mythology and lots of very powerful experiences. Yeah.
That's true, and again, often shown with the goddess. I just find this
that's right. Yeah, Diana. Yeah. So.
Huh. So a quick thought though, what do you think about Bohemian Grove? I
write about it in the book, and I'm very cautious because it's the sort of you use the internet to research this stuff. It's like, oh my God, it's like are they drinking the blood of babies or what's going on there? It's so because you can certainly, if you want to, that's written out there. You can find it and quote it online. I don't know how reliable that is as an actual fact, but like years ago when I was doing this outdoor work, I met a young guy who worked at Bohemian Grove. He was a waiter in the restaurants there. They had they have lodges and restaurants, and he was a waiter there, and he had to sign some non-disclosure thing, and he didn't say much. And I was like, oh my God, you worked at Bohemian Grove? What happened? What was it like? And he's like, well, quite honestly, everyone just got so liquored up. And that's one of the things I've heard is just this body, just alcohol infused descent into madness, so they're all drunk basically, and shooting guns and liquor. So yeah, walking around with guns, shooting them at the redwood trees. So the Bohemian Grove thing was, because everyone calls the owl Moloch, and if Moloch is a bull, not an owl. So the Bohemian Grove thing was, because everyone calls the owl Moloch, and if Moloch is a bull, not an owl.
Okay, let me just say that I set Alex Jones straight on that whole thing, and you'll see in his new movie, he's like, oh, well, it's related to the goddess, but yeah, Moloch. I railed on him, and it's amazing just to throw this little thing in for people to understand how these mythologies expand and build and things like that. Alex is the only person who's ever equated the owl at Bohemian Grove to Moloch. And of course, Alec was the first person to go in and film it. So, he only had Moloch to go on. He didn't know about Columbia, Minerva, or any of this stuff. And so now it's like this epic battle to destroy that piece of false information that made it into the consciousness. I've been trying for 11 years, Mike.
Wow, how interesting! Because that was, whatever, how to say, a truth, a lie goes around the world before truth has the time to put its tie its shoelaces. Yeah. So, and then so I don't have a good answer to that. And then and you can just go on the website of the Bohemian Grove, and they got a big owl on the website, and they got pictures of the inside of the, of people having, banquets and dinners, and there's all kinds of owl things on their things, and you can, so there's owl stuff, and right on the outside of the building, there's a picture of an owl, and I'm doing this from the top of my head, and there's a little phrase that says,
Weaving Spiders Come Not Here.
Exactly,
Yeah,
Weaving Spiders. Yeah, okay.
I actually busted into the Bohemian Club. You can watch it on YouTube.
Oh, did you do it with a video camera? And
Oh yeah, Esoteric Adventures in San Francisco.
okay, and right across from this is it called the White Owl or something like that? There's an owl bar right across the street. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, there's a bar right across the street. It's where I found that. I found that on Google Earth Street View.
Okay.
So you're like, here's the Bohemian Club building, and you turn the camera around, and right kitty corner to it is this bar called the White Owl.
Well, we were just about to ding dong ditch Michael Aquino as we were driving past his house in a limousine. And then instead decided, well, actually, Jamie wouldn't let us ding-dong ditch Michael Aquino. So we moved on and decided to go harass the fellas there at the Bohemian Club. And I mean, yeah, we stormed right in just with our cameras blazing, a bunch of crazy kids just like, hey, what's up? And they immediately threw us out and started screaming Homeland Security. And of course, we have this all on film for all you folks to enjoy. So please dig around freemantv.com because there's a lot of stuff there, man. I've done, my fair share of fun.
Yeah, there's something online where someone did a little more stealthy. They kind of walked around and
this was the club, not the Grove.
Yeah. This is the club. This is the building in downtown San Francisco. Yeah. So, yeah. And so Weaving Spiders Come Not Here is a myth of from ancient Greece where Athena, the goddess not only of wisdom but of arts and crafts, meets a woman, and the woman, they kind of have they have a weave off, you know what I mean? They're both trying to weave a tapestry, and the woman weaves a better and more beautiful tapestry than Diana, and she's all annoyed, and she turns the woman into a spider, and the woman's name was Arachnia, and that's where we get the term arachnid even today. So there's thing was formed 100 years ago, and folks were studying Greek mythology then. Who knows how where the surface story is and where the deep story is.
Let's realize it, folks. This owl symbolism goes all the way back to the Queen of the Night, our earliest depictions of some sort of witch-like being, often equated to Lilith, but in the museum simply depicted as Queen of the Night. We have her standing there depicted on the branches with an owl on one side and the owl on the other, very much like Susan's story. We have this owl that has followed us throughout time, throughout mythology, and throughout all kinds of mystical experiences, through every culture on this planet. And we know for a fact that we throw fake owls on top of buildings because it is a genetic memory marker to all beings out there. And now you might understand why there is an owl at Bohemian Grove. Not sure, but we realize that this is a very, very deep message lying throughout all of society on planet Earth.
So, a 10-hour tale. Gather, ye forest folk, and cast your spell over these mortals. Touch their world-blind eyes with Bereans. Open their eyes and follow the memories of yesterday and seal the gates of sorrow. It is a dream, and yet not all a dream. Dull care and all of his words are but a dream. As vanished Babylon and goodly Tyre, so shall they also vanish. But the wilding rose blows on the broken battlements of Tyre, and walk rends the stones of Babylon. For beauty is eternal, and we bow to beauty everlasting. For lasting happiness, return to one alone. And she surrounds you now. Great nature, refuge of the weary heart, and only balm for breasts that have been bruised. She hath cool hands for every favored brow, and gentlest silence for the troubled soul. The counsels are most wise. She healeth well, having such ministries as calm and sleep. She is ever faithful. Other friends may fail, but seek ye her in any quiet place. Smiling, she will rise and give to you her kiss. So must ye come as children. Little children that believe nor ever doubt her beauty and her faith, nor deem her tenderness can change or die.
We'll get back to more enhanced video of the ritual here in just a minute. But remember PJ, the little demon down in the corner, the left-hand corner of the program, sweeping up the ashes with little horns? And how can you forget this? The image of a human body burning on the altar. Again, this is what they were handing out to those that were witnessing these macabre activities. But again, from Babylon on into ancient England, the word bonfire, meaning human sacrifices being thrown into fiery pits, turned into today's bonfire. After the sacrifice, members of the cult would sweep up the ashes of the victim and use them in future rituals. One of the things that is extremely obvious by looking at the program handed out to Bohemian Club members is the person creating the program had a deep understanding of the occult.